Unfamiliarity is often what evokes fear. Creatures that are deemed alien are usually what repulse us. However, there is another genre of fear that manifests in a much more complex manner. The uncanny is a concept that relies on familiarity to cause feelings of discomfort and unease. Clowns, for instance, are not meant to be scary but are feared by many and appear frequently in fictional horror. Sigmund Freud's 1919 essay, The Uncanny, serves as a valuable starting point. Freud's definition of the uncanny involves the German term unheimlich, which translates to not familiar or not of the home. He adds a second definition, stating that unheimlich can also allude to something hidden within the familiar. These two definitions are contradictory, as they suggest that the term has two opposing meanings. Freud provides an explanation that references his own thoughts regarding the self. He states that the uncanny is that class of the terrifying which leads back to something long known to us, once very familiar. We will return to Freud's theory in discussing principles like the double later on. But first, we will review an alternative context for the term uncanny.
Pardon me if I could say good morning, ladies. You pardon me, but I am very, very busy. I haven't seen you since the days of childhood. Do you remember how we romped a while? Do you remember how I told you that I loved you?
The theory known as the Uncanny Valley is probably familiar to most avid Internet users. Although the term has become associated with various memes over the years, the Uncanny Valley theory was first brought to light by the influential Japanese roboticist, Masahiro Mori. In his 1970 essay, Mori suggests that humanoid entities can cause discomfort among onlookers due to their close, but not close enough, resemblance to humans. According to Mori, in climbing toward the goal of making robots appear human, our affinity for them increases until we come to a valley. To recap, as an object grows closer and closer to a human-like appearance, we are likely to have a positive response to it. However, Mori believes that there is a point where this semblance provokes a negative response. The Uncanny Valley is home to entities that appear human but not quite human enough. Although not always related, the uncanny is often intertwined with a concept known as the abject. In simplest form, abjection refers to that which is cast off or separated from norms. This can be in a societal, moral, or physical sense. Social abjection can refer to the rejection of individuals and groups who are cast out and othered by society. In a different manner, bodily fluids are an example of physical abjection. Things like blood and vomit should typically remain within the body, and their expulsion causes us to feel disgust. The abject is a powerful force in horror, where social conventions are frequently broken and the body is often mutilated to elicit repulsion. The theory of abjection suggests that this negative response stems from a sudden recognition of our own fragility. Julia Kristova's 1980 essay on abjection is fundamental in defining the abject. She describes the abject as something that threatens a breakdown of meaning or understanding by disrupting social and/or physical binaries. These instances may cause us to suddenly become aware of our corporeality or lose a sense of the distinction between the self and the other. In her essay, Kristova states that abjection is above all ambiguity. Because, while releasing a hold, it does not radically cut off the subject from what threatens it. On the contrary, abjection acknowledges it to be in perpetual danger. To further illustrate this concept, Kristova introduces a corpse as an example. When most people look at a corpse, they experience a negative response. We are repulsed because evolution has made us this way, primarily because close proximity to a corpse may result in sickness. Kristova provides an alternative, and more psychological, perspective. A corpse exists differently than how it once was, placing it on the border between life and death. Kristova explains that our repulsion distances us from the corpse and abjection forces us to choose. We exist on the life side of the border, while the corpse is pushed to the opposite. To summarize, the abject is that which disrupts normative boundaries and therefore threatens a breakdown in conventional understanding. The abject can be used to describe the state of marginalized groups. Abjection exists in a liminal space. Now that we have covered some necessary definitions, let us discuss some situations where these concepts can transpire. Liminality is a term that comes up when discussing both the uncanny and the abject. Liminal most often refers to an intermediate stage or an in-between. This definition is reminiscent of Kristova's corpse example. The Oxford English Dictionary states that physical liminality can refer to a place or activity that is detached from the center of things, while social liminality can refer to subcultures who are distanced from the mainstream. In the interest of our discussion, we will concentrate on liminality in the context of physical and digital spaces. Due to an increase in online discourse over the past decade, the liminal space has become a niche internet aesthetic. These spaces are often abandoned waiting rooms, hallways, or malls, and their depictions cause viewers to experience an eerie sense of familiarity or nostalgia. The absence of life and external stimuli within liminal spaces is partially what creates the uncomfortable and otherworldly ambience. This aesthetic can be explored through countless YouTube videos showcasing creepy spaces and has even been translated into video games like The Backrooms. The concept of backrooms refers to an urban legend that is characterized by endless randomly generated rooms, most of which can be categorized as liminal spaces. Supposedly, the legend originated on 4chan by an anonymous user who asked others to post disquieting images that just feel off. Many have contributed to the legend over the years, which has helped to establish a universal understanding of the liminal space. Today, images derived from this legend are some of the most popular depictions of liminal spaces that circulate online. Liminal spaces can be symbolic in film. For example, they could represent a change in someone's psychological state or simply a shift in the plot. The Shining is an excellent example of liminality in film. This is apparent in the bizarre layout and isolated location of the Overlook Hotel, as well as the long hallways that contribute to some of the film's most iconic scenes. The Shining can serve as a general example of uncanny media, as it also features multiple cases of the double. Freud's explanation of the double is complex and can be interpreted differently across many kinds of media, from Gothic literature to modern sci-fi films. With reference to earlier contributions from Ernst Jentsch and Udo Rank, Freud's definition stems from a psychoanalytical outlook. Because we are looking at the double in film, the central ideas are as follows. The double can function as a reflection of the ego and/or an extension of the self. The double can be used to induce confusion surrounding one's perception of the self and the self in relation to the other. The double can express the contrast between good and evil, oftentimes resulting in parallelism. For instance, the double may embody the negative traits that have been repressed within the protagonist. The use of the double leads to the uncanny. An article posted to a blog called Culture Decanted provides a typology of the double in film that helps to illustrate the concept. This table contains 16 types of doubles, each of which falls within, and at times, overlap, 4 broad categories: physical doubles, reflection doubles, transformation doubles, and narratology doubles. The physical double encapsulates many of the more common tropes such as identical twins, the evil twin, clones, both unaware and aware, and the temporal double, which is a version of the same person from a different timeline. The reflection double often manifests as a mirror that acts as a window to another world or doppelgangers in a spiritual sense, like ghost apparitions of the self. The transformation double usually refers to characters with dissociative identity disorder. And lastly, the narratology double, specifically the counterpoint double, is best understood through their relationship with another character. These characters don't necessarily have to be alike on the surface, but their connection or interaction is what gives them meaning and progresses the plot. The best example of this is Frankenstein and his monster. Returning to our example of The Shining, the Grady twins are the most obvious instance of the double, as they are depicted physically and are identical twins. Tony and Danny as a case of the double relate closely to Freud's theory, as Tony can be understood as the part of Danny that shines, thus acting as an extension of the self. Other popular films that include uncanny doubles are Us and Coraline.
You're not my mother. My mother doesn't have
I bite at the hand that feeds me, slap at the face that eats me. Some kind of animal cannibal. Animal cannibal.
Possibly in Michigan is a 1983 short musical horror film written and directed by American video artist Cecilia Condit. The accompanying song, Animal Cannibal by Karen Sklodny, contributes to the film's strange ambience with an unconventional mix of electronic notes and unsettling lyrics.
Sharon attracted violent men. Strangely, she had a way of making the violence seem like it was their idea. Her friend Janice was cut from the same mold. They even liked the same perfume.
The film follows 2 women who are stalked in a shopping mall by a cannibal named Arthur. The overall feel of the video is bizarre and at times, disturbing. Sharon and Janice, who share a fondness for violence and perfume, are eventually followed home by the masked cannibal. The film ends with somewhat of a reversal of roles, as the protagonists become the assailants. In Condit's words, Possibly in Michigan is a story of friendship, courage, frailty and fears that will not go away. The following quote from Patricia Mellencamp's Uncanny Feminism, The Exquisite Corpses of Cecilia Condit exemplifies one of the many ways that the film can be interpreted. Mellencamp writes, Condit's disconcerting irony and sweetly gruesome stories also put on and undo societal prescriptions and taboos regarding women's options to subjugation by violence or the gaze, letting us see and hear what often remains hidden, behaving with impropriety. Possibly in Michigan is an excellent case of uncanny media, and its subject matter is significant beyond entertainment. From visuals to audio to narrative, Condit's work incorporates a wide range of uncanny elements and thoroughly embodies the abject.
Animal, cannibal.
How did these images make you feel? These portraits were generated by Stable Diffusion, an AI-based text-to-image model. This is one example of how artificial intelligence can induce the uncanny, in this case, the uncanny valley effect. In discussing artificial intelligence and the uncanny, it is important to note which facets of AI are relevant. Artificial intelligence that performs small tasks like facial recognition, for instance, does not typically elicit negative responses among users. In contrast, humanoid robots are known to cause feelings of discomfort among onlookers, as reported in Mori's Uncanny Valley theory.
Hello everyone.
Many opinions surrounding AI are heavily influenced by depictions in science fiction. In a fictional context, AI is often presented as a threat to humankind, like in The Matrix. A certain level of control and understanding is necessary for humans to feel safe. Many naturally seek order and stability to avoid or cope with things like anxiety and change. Unfortunately, in an effort to avoid the unknown, one can easily become close-minded or jump to conclusions. For instance, if an individual primarily associates the term artificial intelligence with that which is depicted in fiction, their emotional response to the real-life technology could be negatively impacted. And because fictional cases of artificial intelligence are just that, fiction, they may be difficult to understand and therefore deem safe. Some may experience an existential dilemma when faced with AI concepts. For example, one may wonder, if a machine can replace my duties, ideas, and creativity, will it deny me a sense of purpose? There seems to be a common theme between this wariness surrounding AI and the uncanny. There is a degree of familiarity and intrigue, but also of threat and discomfort. This applies to both visual and conceptual instances where, in short, skepticism can lead to repulsion. So why is it that some people purposefully indulge in unsettling media? Is it curiosity or an adrenaline rush? Or perhaps some have become desensitized and remain unaffected? In terms of uncanny media, it is likely that viewers are drawn to the uncanny phenomenon itself. As Freud's theory indicates, the uncanny functions in tandem with our personal memories and experiences. Perhaps it is a kind of intimacy or relatability that intrigues us because, at its core, the uncanny is a psychological experience. That sense of uneasiness intertwined with nostalgia is distinct from the fear elicited by most other horror. Fear is usually a response that prevents us from harm. However, the uncanny is not so easily explained. We may not know for certain why some are fascinated with uncanny media, but it is safe to say that its anomalous nature is part of what draws us in.